It's January and you know what that means. Silly season is upon us and Transfer Rumours Show is back. And today we have some big breaking news for you. I say breaking, it's been breaking over the last day. We have a player who seems to be confirmed to be on his way out. We have a player who's confirmed to definitely be staying. And then one potential on their way out. But that one a little less certain than the other. So we'll leave that till last. But welcome to 2024, everyone. I hope however you spent last night and New Year's, you enjoyed it. Whether it was by yourself, looking at fireworks, watching Jules Holland, whatever you did. Rick Astley, he was on. Whatever you ended up doing, I hope you enjoyed it. Ignore the tree; it will be gone eventually. But you know, we got keep grasp of Christmas for as long as possible. But let's go on to the player who seems to be almost certainly on the way out, because we're used at West Ham to things taking a long time in a transfer window, usually the back end. But with Tim Steidten, it seems to be a different story. And once again, he seems to be working his magic, as he is currently in Monaco, negotiating a move for Thilo Kehrer to join the former Ligue 1 champions. This was reported, I saw it first. It's sort of been a rumour that's been building for a little while, for about a week or so. I saw Fabrizio was the first person, friend of the channel, spoke about us being sort of in late stages of a deal with Monaco, and then X reported, which makes it pretty much concrete in my opinion, that we are in advanced stages of negotiations, in it being a loan deal with a view to buy, which isn't ideal, but I do think Thilo Kehrer leaving this in this window probably is. Realistically, he's someone who came in and I was very excited to see what he could do. I thought he had a good upside, and I still do think he does. It's very clear it's not worked for him, unfortunately. I haven't really seen at any point a position in which has really felt like it's his own. He sort of flips between right back and centre back, and neither of them he's been particularly great at. I think if we were playing a back three system, and last summer we certainly seemed to be interested in players that would suggest we would be interested in a back three system, or not even last summer, the summer before that. If we were doing that, then I would love to see him in that sort of right centre back role, being able to dictate play with his passing and his movement, which is quite good. In a back two, at right back or centre back, he's just never really grasped it for me. It's never really been something that I think worked out. So seeing him go somewhere else, I think is the right move for him. And for us as a club, we don't need someone who's sitting there. I mean, now we've got Mavropanos as additionally on top of Zuma and Aged. And listen, Ogbonna put in a wonderful performance the other day. It's not going to happen. We'll see if it happens again. He's at the age where we sort of seem to be moving on. But Kehrer just seems to be a spare part. And we aren't a club who can just hoard players like that. So for us as well, it seems to make sense to let him leave. Never heard anything bad about him personally, you know what I mean? Sometimes you hear players agitating for moves or, you know, aren't great at training or anything like that. If anything, I've only ever heard good things about Thilo Kehrer. And obviously, I think we all probably remember the parade after the trophy win and him being heavily involved in the celebrations and everything else. He seems like a good lad, but it's just one of those ones where it hasn't worked out, which is a shame. But I'm sure he'll go on to kill it anywhere else he goes. He's played in Ligue 1 before. We obviously got him from PSG. He's going back to Monaco. Makes sense for him. And I wish him all the best. Loan isn't ideal for me. I would have preferred to see him go permanently so we can get that money in and start reinvesting it. But ultimately, if we were to say get another centre-back on loan, that kind of transaction would work for me depending on who it was. It's ultimately, as Gio was saying in a video yesterday on the channel, if you saw it, about our squad levels and our squad registration stuff, we do sort of need to see non-homegrown players leave a little bit in order to invest in other non-homegrown players, because we are hitting up against that limit. This kind of makes sense. And if it's someone who's got interest, it's a good club for him to go to, it makes sense for us, then I think it's only a good thing. Despite the deal not being ideal, despite it not being that permanent chunk of money straight away, we can deal with it. And I hope he does well there. Not just because then we get the full money at the end of it, but realistically, I like him. I really want him to do well, even if it wasn't at West Ham, and I never really wanted to see him play at us because I didn't think it was going to help us. I think he is a good player, and I would love to see him do well because he seems like a good dude. But there you go, Thilo Kehrer to Monaco, something that we'll be keeping an eye on and be reporting on if it does end up happening, and we can get some more of those actual details, for example, about the financials, which should be super important for the rest of the month, especially given the fact we've given out a new contract. Someone guaranteed to be staying is Tomas Soucek. The big helicopter spinny man himself has confirmed to be signing a new deal. It's been announced on the club website. There's a video on their Twitter feed, little thing of him celebrating stuff. you know how these things go. He is staying at the club till June 2027. I didn't realise it's been 4 years since he joined us. It seems an insane amount of time for that to... How it has been 4 years already, I don't know. But I think it's well deserved. I think he's really, really worked hard. I think there are few players who have probably put in the blood, sweat and tears he has over the 4 years he's been here. And additionally, I think this has probably been his best season for a while with us. I think he was initially hampered by Declan Rice, or I say initially, that first sort of season and a half he was here, he did brilliantly. At the end of his first full season, I think he had 10 goals. Really, really strong. And then as Declan Rice got better and emerged as someone who was super important to us going forward, Tomas Soucek's role diminished and he became more and more defensive. And it sort of, well, as we all know, it limited what he did. It sort of became a de facto playmaker in that sense. And that's something we all know. Thomas is not his strong suit, to say the least. He's not someone who's going to pick the ball out and be able to dictate play with it or anything else like that. This season, without Rice in a slightly different role, he's sort of been getting back to his best. And this is someone who, when he was at his best, was linked with big clubs. You know, I heard the name Bayern Munich being thrown around at one point. I heard the number 40 million getting thrown around at some point. This is someone who, if he was in that realm, would be someone who would attracted interest at these big clubs. Now, would he go there now or something else? It's a different story. I don't know. But I think him signing a long-term contract at the club is not only beneficial to us because he is an incredibly important player for the way we play, but also realistically, if we do want to sell him, him leaving in the summer on a free is not good for us because he's someone who starts every single game. We can't just let him go for free and then have no money to replace him. We need something. We saw how important that is with Declan Rice. We let him go for a large amount of money. All of a sudden, we can reinvest that. It doesn't matter if that's 100 million. It doesn't matter if it was 40 million. It doesn't matter if it was 20 million for Tomas Soucek. We need to be able to reinvest that to actually get a replacement for him, someone who's going to start every game, because that's what Tomas Soucek does currently. And also, I just don't want to see him leave. He's someone who you can guarantee will do absolutely everything in his power to try and get the win. I mean, even in the on the website, I wrote down one of the quotes because I just thought it sort of sums up Tomas Soucek a little bit. And it's a bit flowery. It's the sort of thing most people say, but it sort of feels true coming from Tomas Soucek for some reason. He was talking about how a relationship with the fans, and he said this was a big part of the reason I wanted to extend my contract with West Ham, because this feels like my home now. And it's one of those things where everyone says that, but my man has like blood all over his face and is still running around trying to head the ball. Do you know what I mean? I love him. I unabashedly do, and I understand why he is criticised a lot, especially when it comes to his passing and stuff like that, where he's definitely not doing it. And when we play a system where we emphasise the fact he has to pass the ball, it's bad times. But he's already got 7 goals this season because we've de-emphasised that. We've actually been getting the best out of him in the places he's good at, which is the 2 boxes. There's nothing in between. Ray, who the co-host of the Two Spanners One Hammer podcast, shout out to my boy Ray, once called him a box and box midfielder. Not box to box, he's a box and box, because that bit in between does not exist. That doesn't exist. But the bits in either box, he is absolutely brilliant at. And we've seen that this season. He's got 7 goals ready. That's the most since that initial first season where he got 10. I'm really hopeful that we can see Tomas Soucek come back to his best. And hey, if that means in the summer or later on down the line, we could get big money for him and replace him, then great. But if that means that we have him at the club for a lot longer, then I'm equally happy, because he is a super important player to the way we play. He's a super important player for just West Ham in general. He starts every single game for a reason. And that's not just because David Moyes likes him, it's because he does something vital for the team. Now, again, in the future, we'll see what happens with that. We're going to probably move towards something different. He might end up getting replaced and all that other sort of stuff. But then that's why him having a contract so we can sell him is important. You know how it goes. I think this is good news. I understand why he gets criticised, but him signing a new contract, even if you are someone who does not like Tomas Soucek, I cannot see being anything other than good news, because it means we can actually get money for him, which we weren't going to get otherwise. So Tomas Soucek staying at the club until 2027. And then the final news story, which is the least likely to me, and I'm only going to touch on it briefly because there's not really that much out there. Said Benrahma is being linked with yet more moves away in recent weeks, in recent days. The Sun linked him with a move to Lyon. Marseille got linked with a move for him in, I think it was Ligue. And then now, today, the Daily Mail have said that Fulham are interested in Said Benrahma. And all of those seem to indicate that it was heavily predicated on whether we could get a replacement, especially obviously given the fact that Mohamed Kudus seems to be going straight to AFCON. He doesn't seem to be even playing for Brighton. And I suspect they'll at least get through the group stages. If you look at their group stage, Ghana, they seem to be capable of getting through that. Said Benrahma is probably going to be an important piece of the puzzle. I found it really interesting that he was given the go-ahead to play against Arsenal as opposed to Pablo Fornals, who I would have expected, which makes it feel like, to me, he is probably going to be playing a heavy role while Kudus is away. And if that is the case, then obviously we would need a replacement first. And all three of those articles seemed to suggest that as well. They all seem to say it's predicated on us getting a replacement. I think we need a left winger in general. I'm not against selling Said Benrahma. I know the Sun said that we would want 20 million guaranteed if he did join Lyon, if they stayed up, which, although seems obvious, they have had an awful season. They were in the relegation zone at one point. They have had an atrocious start to a season, which makes sense why they'd want someone like Benrahma to come in. And the 20 million would be really, really good. Funny thing, it's more than I thought we would get for Said Benrahma. So if we could figure out a deal in which that would be possible, then that would be beautiful, because I think Said's time, unfortunately, has come to an end. As much as I think, I have a lot of conversations with people, and oftentimes they say stuff like he's a championship player at best. I disagree with that. I think he is good enough to play for a top league, a top 5 league, be it in the Premier League, be it in Ligue 1, from these other two clubs being suggested. I don't really care which one it is. I think he's more than good enough to do it. It's just in a different team. It's not with us. He doesn't suit the system. He doesn't suit the style. And he needs to be in a team, I think, that are going to have more possession and have more opportunities, because he gets a lot of chances with the ball in good areas and is never really consistently doing anything with it. It's a shame, because there is something there. Even in the last game where he came on and I thought he really struggled against Arsenal, there were moments where you could see the brilliance there. There was a little flick of the back heel into Emerson, who played it through to James Ward-Prowse, and it goes down the line. And there's something there. I think that was in the build-up to winning the corner for the second goal, I think. It's just not consistent enough. And I think he's also seems to be one of those players who needs consistently playing. He needs to consistently start in order for him to really get fully into the flow of things. I remember thinking this a lot about Alex Song at the time. Alex Song, obviously an incredibly talented footballer. We got him from Barcelona. There's a reason he was there and at Arsenal before. He was very, very good. But when he came back from his big injury with us, he seemed to really be trying to force the issue, trying to force the long passes, and just doing stuff that he didn't necessarily need to do, and something where someone who is confident with themselves and playing within their own flow wouldn't necessarily do. And Benrahma, to me, does similar things. I spoke about the idea of, on a video the other day, the idea of him and Kudus being quite similar in that they both have this thing where they get the ball and then they drive straight to the sort of, they try to shift it onto their strong foot, just cut inside slightly and go for goal. The problem is Kudus hits the target every single time and actually scores goals from there. Benrahma hits the target rarely. And I think he needs to be in a place where he's playing every single game to get the confidence levels to not make the bad decisions he makes, to not be slow in his decision making. And realistically, when you're a counter-attacking team like we are, he's never going to get that. He's never going to get the amount of opportunities he needs. He's never going to get the consistency of game time he's going to need. It's just not going to happen. We need a better left winger. There's something we need to look at in the future. And Said Benrahma is unfortunately standing in the way. And again, not to reiterate on it, but what Gio said the other day about the idea of non-homegrown players and us hitting that cap, these are decisions we're going to have to make. Benrahma at this point, unfortunately, does feel like a squad player. He does feel like a bit of a I don't know what the word is, surplus to requirements, really, if we're being honest about it. So I would recommend it. I would be here for him leaving if it is either of those three. And hey, listen, if we can get somehow 20 million out of it, then that's incredible for me, because I thought we'd get 15 max. Max. I do think there's value there, but 20 seems a lot. But there you go. Those are the big three main stories. Benrahma a little bit less likely, but Kehrer does seem to be happening, does seem to be close. Tim Steidten is obviously in Monaco trying to make that happen. We've also been linked with some players. He's also doing a bit of scouting, seeing if there's any deals to be had, any people to be interested in while he's over there as well. My man's got the jet back out and he's flying around and doing some business. So it seems to be a new era for the club in terms of actually getting stuff done early, as opposed to what we are incredibly used to, which is waiting until the last week or two of the window and then everything happening at once because we leave it too late. We seem to be moving quite quickly, which is nice. Soucek staying, Kehrer potentially going, and then we'll see what happens with Said Benrahma. But those are stories. Let me know how you feel about them in the comments section below. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow because it is match day. We'll be live an hour and 5 minutes before kickoff with the build-up show. I'll then do the watch-along. We'll then have our live match review straight after. All of that good stuff. So make sure to join us for that. Subscribe, hit the bell notification button so you don't miss out on it, and then hit the like video. Hit the like video, hit the like button because it helps us out a heck of a lot. This might be the last team to see the Christmas tree. So say goodbye to the Christmas tree. I don't know. It might be there tomorrow. I don't know. I'm very lazy. I probably won't change it. But who knows? We'll find out. You'll have to tune in tomorrow to see. Anyway, see you tomorrow, everyone. Cheers. Bye.